I am Rachel with Fiona Sandwich Patterns, and in today's video we're going to talk about just about all things temperature quilt patterns. So let's get started. I hope you are so excited about the temperature quilt pattern, and I hope you've downloaded your pattern. Today we are going to talk about a few different things about the temperature quilt. So in your pattern you'll see a few different pages. The last one that you will see is page 6, and this is your layout block. 2020 is a really fun year because it's a leap year. When I planned this pattern, I planned for 52 weeks, most weeks in the year, or most years have 52 weeks, but leap year has 53. So there are a few different things that you can do. You could do 3 different stars at the top or the bottom in gray. You could also start here with week 1 and go all the way down. This is what I did for my cover image. Week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on and so forth. So then you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Generally, a month has 4 weeks. You know, there are about half of them that have more, so that, you know, it does throw that off, but generally speaking, these would be 1 month, 2 month, and so on and so forth. You could have 3 stars here that are gray. You could choose another color that coordinates. I really wouldn't worry about this. There is going to be so much color and visual movement of the eye that I really think it's not going to matter which 3 you select, where they are. It's going to be a really beautiful quilt any way that you look at it. So that's one thing. Like I said, the other one is selecting kind of a coordinating color. If you're in the United States and January is typically a cold month for you, then maybe you would choose to do this in your colder colors, and then you might do something similar down here as well. Again, get started on your quilt and then make a decision later about where everything is going to be. Okay, so while we're on this page, you will see that page 3 and 4 are 2 different stars. So on this row, for the whole row across, is page 3. The second row down is page 4. So if you choose to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you would do all of page 3. This row is page 4. Then we go back to page 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. So in my cover image, I did 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4. I went this way. It's not going to matter which way you go across. Okay, so this is what week 3 looks like. And then you will see week 4. And these match together like this. And the reason that there are duplicates on page 3 and 4 of, let me put my little diamond back in here. The reason that there are duplicates is you will need extras for the edges. So just cut these off and save them. So this is how page 3 and 4 fit together. You won't stitch them on top of each other. These are just extra pieces that need to go in other places, but you do need them. So there's that, and then page 5 fits in, oh goodness, where does page 5 fit in? On the fly. let me point it out for you here. It'll be easier for me to show you it here. So this piece is this one right here. So it will go in the corner. Let me move these. Actually, these are probably okay. In the corner of your pieces. I'll slide this down. And then you can see this diamond or this cross rather, that comes out. So that's how this one fits in with the other ones. All right, I hope that makes sense. So there are a few notes about this shape, the kind of a kite diamond shape, and this one. There are slight bends or a slight angle in this piece and right here. So just make note, a mental note, when you are piecing them together, that that is an angle there. And I'll show you in another video, so this one doesn't become so long, how to put those together, but it's really, really simple. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to share was how I do my diamonds. I need to move this over. How I do my diamonds so that they all nest together on the back and they don't create a mess. So I'm standing off to the side of the camera and I need to turn this so that I can cut. I'm a lefty. Oops. I like using about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and this little bit of fabric is a little bit shy on this side of a 1/4 of an inch. Or a 3/8 of an inch rather. So I'm just going to measure in between. This is not science. It's art class, and I hope that you just embrace the free-spiritedness of this pattern for the year. It's going to be really fun to see what colors your quilt has and what your temperature is like. Oh, that was one thing that I wanted to talk about. If you live in an area where you don't have as much temperature variation, don't worry, you can still participate in the quilt along and you can have a beautiful quilt. Maybe what you might do is do increments of 5 degrees Fahrenheit, or maybe even less for Celsius. Just choose some colors that would be really fun, or different degrees, degree distances that would be really fun. I wouldn't worry too much about not having huge temperature fluctuations. Your quilt is going to be really amazing either way. One thing that I did say in the pattern is to kind of take a look at previous years to have an idea of what they are like as far as, you know, where your temperature is. You might not have huge variations in the year, but you might have a lot of really cold days or a lot of really warm days, and you might want to choose colors that you prefer for the really hot days. I didn't think that in 2019 Colorado had too many really warm days, and as it turns out, it did. So I went back and I sorry, you can't see me cutting these out. I chose colors that I preferred for the warmer days because there were so many more than what I had originally intended. Another note on this pattern is I have the days of the week marked on each of these diamonds, and I did that just in case you're cutting by hand and maybe one is not quite cut right along the line, then they'll nest together just perfectly. So I guess that's what I would do, is I would just do Sunday through Saturday or Monday through Sunday. All right, so for glue, I use cheap school glue. I like to get this when the school products are on sale. But this one at my office supply store is really quite cheap. Okay, so I like to put up just a little bit of glue on the back side, just to hold it in place so then it really stays put. And with diamonds and triangles, it's best to always start in the same place. So with a triangle, I'm a lefty, so I start on the left-hand side. If you're a righty, you might start over here. With a diamond, it doesn't matter which one you start with, but you want to make sure that it's always the same. It's a little bit chilly in my sewing room, so the glue isn't sticking quite as well. So for this one, I will be starting at the top for all of my pieces, and then I always go around. Generally, I start at the bottom left, again, because I'm a lefty and that works out well for me. With a triangle, do not do the shortest side first unless you are using the National Park quilt pattern, and then you would start with the smallest one first. And the reason for that difference is because those pieces are so much smaller. But when you have more sizable pieces, it's better to start with one of the longer ends instead of the shorter ends, because you'll have less bunching. Okay, so there is the first one. I'm not necessarily going to, maybe I will pick them up in the right order, but you can see that I'm starting with the top left again. Oh, and I didn't, this is why I just put a little bit of glue on the back. And I prefer glue basting to thread basting. You can certainly thread baste and you would just go in the same direction, but for me it feels like I'm sewing the same thing twice, and I prefer not to do the same thing multiple times. So it just works out easier for me to glue baste, and the glue is very, very cheap. So I like it. I haven't had a problem with this glue. I have had a problem with purple Elmer's glue before. I cannot stand it. What I have noticed is that it tends to burn the fabric just a little bit. Normally I don't worry too much about these pieces not staying down. Alright, so now you can see that these are starting to go. I will grab Tuesday. I'll just keep going in the same direction. Okay, a little bit of glue on the back. So you can see that the corners are nesting really nicely here. And if you have a piece that has extra up on the top, don't worry about it. It is not a problem. English paper piecing, if you've never done it before, is so forgiving. I love that you can ease the pieces into place and the corners match so nicely. I am a rather impatient quilter. I'm relatively patient in life, but I feel like quilting is a little bit different. So if you are also impatient, then I think you'll find that English paper piecing is nice because the pieces, you can ease them together. All right, so we continue to have them going around, and it'll just continue. Just make it a habit to always start in the same place every single time. It becomes kind of a muscle memory, so to speak. So then what I would do is, instead of piecing Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Monday, Tuesday, through Sunday, wherever you are starting your week. Oh, hey, Wednesday, that's why those, and all of these arrows are in the same direction, so you know which one is up. In case you were using this for something other than the temperature quilt, then you know which one goes where. Okay, so as I was saying, instead of piecing these two together and then adding and adding and adding and adding, what I would do is I would split this up. And I would have 4 together, and you can choose any 4. That doesn't really matter. So I'd do 4 and 3 and then attach them. And the reason that this is going to be helpful is when you have these points together, then you won't have any shifting of the fabric. It'll be less frustrating because there will be less easing that you need to do, because this becomes somewhat of a straight line. Another thing that I really like to do, it is more time consuming, but my points match much better, is I start from the center and I work my way out, tie it off, or add, your pieces over here. If you're doing it here, then you would add your, this one, I believe, goes here. You'd add your next piece. If you're just doing just the week, and then you're doing your background pieces together, I would just sew from the middle to the outside, tie it off, start again in the middle, and go to the outside and tie it off. And the reason I do that is because it just makes these center points nest so much better. Because it's not an even number, you can't sew straight across, and it makes it a little bit maybe more annoying to have it not go straight across. That's how I would break up an 8-point star, or where you have several pieces going together. So this will make it less cumbersome to go from this side, hoping that these match, and hoping to adjust all of the bulk, and then going out. If you start in the center and go out on either side, then you'll reduce all of that, and your point in the middle will be so much nicer. Let's see, what other tips? And I do that for all of my paper piecing, even if it's a larger piece, especially if it's a larger piece. So this is one for a national park piece, and I start in the middle, work my way one way, and then go the opposite way. And you can also see that my stitches don't always go in the same direction. I'll switch whichever way I am stitching depending on the weight, and you'll figure out which you prefer. Some people like all of the weight on the top, and some people prefer all of the weight on the bottom, and I think I tend to have it more on the bottom, and then I stitch my way up. Oh goodness, sorry. So I think that's it for today. Since this is already a 20-minute video, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will get to them. Actually, one last thought. If you are doing high and low temperatures, I would create your diamond first, and then I would piece your star together, as opposed to doing your center septagon, I believe it is what it's called, with 7 sides, and then doing the diamonds on the outside. I think, or the triangles rather, I think that would probably make it more confusing for you. So if you do high and low each day, that would probably be better as far as stitching it out. And then I think the last thought that I have noticed with previous temperature quilts that it's easy to fall behind. I mean, as quilters and crafters, we have so many projects. We thrive on having new projects all the time, and this is a really fun one to try to accomplish and finish up. Parentheses, if you don't finish it, or you don't think that you'll be able to get all the way through it, don't worry about it. This is about 24 inches. How beautiful would this be to just have a couple months of just stars? So don't stress about not being able to finish. Just enjoy the process, enjoy the creativity, and maybe you might even look back at the end of the year and say, oh my goodness, in March we had some really crazy weather. In Colorado, March is generally our snowiest month, and we definitely did have some really, really crazy weather where it was about 80 degrees one day, and then it's inevitably that we'll have snow the next. So it's fun to see how all of that comes together. I've also heard from some people that they are just going to do their birth week, and I think that would be a really great idea too. So just taking one star and then making it into a pillow or something. So I wouldn't stress. But what I would do is I would print this out. If you're going to try to do the whole week, let's see if I have a pencil handy, you could probably write down really small what the highs and the lows were. And then you can just go back to it later. This would be a really great road trip pattern because you just write down all of your highs and lows. Prep your blocks before you go. I have a separate video on how I prep my blocks, but in a nutshell, all I do is I just take the fabric. I might cut it down into a more manageable size piece, kind of like this, and then I don't drive or ride with a rotary cutter, but you know, while you're parked and not at a stoplight, you could certainly cut some pieces. But even if you're just gluing down your little template piece, just like this, then you can just cut it out. It's completely fine. So another thing that you could do is you could write down January 1 through 7. And maybe I didn't say this before, so I need to back up just in case I didn't say it. So what you could do is you could say that today, Sunday the 1st, I'm just going to say, for example, was a high of 30 and the low was 15. I have no idea. And obviously today is December 31st, so I don't know what the temperature is going to be tomorrow, but let's say that tomorrow is 30 and 15. I would just go ahead and mark all of those things around so that when you are putting them together, you already know January 1st through 7th. Perfect. That one goes here, and I would mark it here, or wherever you were going to start. And in all honesty, you could wait to have your placement until later, or you could mark it on here to know where you left off, maybe check it off. I've done that with Farmer's Wife quilts so that I know, okay, I've done this one, check. And then you can rearrange your quilt later. And I don't think that I maybe said this, is in my cover quilt, I did a little bit longer than the 52 weeks. 2019 had 52 weeks. And again, 2020 has 53 because of leap year. And I think January 1st was midweek for 2019. So I chose to start still with Sunday and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I wanted to have the completed 52 weeks. So it's your quilt. So if you want to not go completely through December, but you want to start December here, I'm not going to rat you out. I'm not going to say that's not okay. It is completely up to you what you want to do. The quilt is going to still be absolutely amazing. You know, the other thing that you possibly could do is do just a couple pieces in your corner blocks. So then you still, if you really want to have this symmetry, you could have just a few pieces in the corners, so then you still have your 53 weeks, but it's a little bit more symmetrical. So that's another option or another idea for you. But deciding, just take a look at the calendar and decide, where do you want to start? Where do you want to end? Do you definitely want it to be 53 weeks? Do you want it to be 52? Do you want to start on Sunday, which would have been the 29th of December? Or do you want to have it start on, what is today, Tuesday, Wednesday, the 1st, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So have it start here. There is no right or wrong answer. Whatever you decide to do is going to be beautiful and amazing, and you're absolutely going to love it at the end of the year. So please do not overthink this. Please do not get stressed about how it's all going to look, because it is going to come together and it is going to be absolutely gorgeous, absolutely amazing, and you are really, really going to love it. So, like I said earlier, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will answer them. Happy New Year, and I am so thrilled to have you joining in with the 2020 temperature quilt along. We'll see you later.